Hello everyone, this is DIZ, and today I'm debuting sensory cards. So I'm going to talk about sensory cards. When you play Tales and Realms and you select a species card for your character, because you have to select a species, this is human species feature ability is the default card. There are 5 defaults that come with it for sensories. Now, sensory cards are important because in the game, as you play, your character needs the ability to detect other characters and objects. And when that capacity is brought into question by players or by the system, it is these cards that we depend on to define exactly what the limits are of different characters' abilities to hear and see and taste and feel and so forth and spell. Each species will have a different set of sensory cards. Humans have 5, and the 5 come by default with the rule book. So if you don't have any species cards, if you don't have any sensory cards, these are the default. We treat you like you have these cards because you're supposed to have them. And I'm going to go through these cards, familiarize you very quickly. The cards are, you can freeze the frame and stop the video anytime you need to see clearly. Vision, for the sense of sight. Gustion, for the sense of taste. Taction, which is actually a very important card, for the sense of feel and to have a character's body. We'll go back to that. Olfaction, which is the sense of smell and breathing. And Audient, which is the sense of hearing. And these cards, these particular cards are particular, they're particular because they function with specific wording that references rules in the rulebook. This one is human species optic sensors. The card this character is used for, gains human species optic sensors, and that's defined. As I explain the rule book, you'll begin to see how cards are defined by it, knowing certain rules. Human species optic sensors have a definition, they have a description in the rule book of how far human characters with this card can see, how effective that sight is, how well that sight can be evaded, the shape of the sight, and so forth is all defined by the rule book. This card just addresses it. Most of the same for Gustion. The character this card is used for gains human species lingual sensors. What this does is it also gives you a target in the game. These are also weak points. If another player theatrically pretends to attack a human character with these sensory cards in a way that triggers these cards, these are actually weak points. Each of these cards can be disabled temporarily for the length of the scene or for the length of the plot. It depends on the nature of the cards used. This one's Tachyon. Very important. The character this card is used for gains the human species organic corporeal avatar. Now we're going to talk about a human species organic corporeal avatar. Organic corporeal avatars. Now organic is a term referenced in the rulebook. It's referenced here on this card. It means that the character, the pretend body of the character, because there are 2 bodies. There's the player's body and then there's the character's body. The player may show up and dress up and make up and represent the appearance of their character, but you don't actually make contact with the player. It's not a contact sport. You make contact with the imagination, the human species organic corporeal avatar, and the properties of that imaginary form are decided by the rulebook in accordance to this card. To explain that. Not to go too in depth, but you should know about sensory cards in case you need to see or hear or taste or feel. you need these cards. If someone else argues that you were unable to see or taste, or you have this card and people can reference very quickly, you know, the limits of what each of these descriptions define themselves with in the rule book. So these are your senses. This is just so if you have a human species feature ability card, and everyone's supposed to have them, you also have these cards. You have Vizian, to see, Gustian, Tactian, Olfaction, Audion. These cards are for the senses. If a character has these cards, in order for another character, a different character, a separate character, to evade detection, they would have to evade these cards. There we have it. See you in the next video.